The emergency session of the Galactic Council erupted into chaos as High Arbiter Velthara struggled to maintain order. Representatives from 12 species argued in languages that the translation systems could barely keep up with. The success of humanity in all three trials had shattered assumptions that had guided galactic civilization for millions of years. The trials were completed according to ancient protocols, declared Ambassador Kethra of the Nexari, his crystalline form glowing with defiant blue light. Humanity has earned the right to full council membership. Impossible, roared General Thokvar of the Korlan military caste, his massive shell-covered form rising from his seat. No species advances from primitive status to full membership in mere months. The humans must have received assistance from rogue council members. Velthara's silver skin had taken on the pale color that indicated extreme stress. The trials were designed to be impossible for any species to complete. They were meant to demonstrate human inadequacy, not to actually admit them to the council. Then you admit the trials were meaningless from the beginning, said Commander Zekthian of the younger Vorthak delegation. You offered false hope while planning certain failure. How does this reflect the wisdom and honor the council claims to represent? The accusations flew back and forth as ancient alliances crumbled under the weight of revelation. The conservative faction, led by Velthara and the Elder Zephyrians, insisted that humanity's success proved nothing except that the trials themselves were flawed. The progressive faction, growing stronger each day, argued that humanity had demonstrated capabilities that the Council had been too proud to recognize. On Earth, Ambassador Carol Davis was working to coordinate humanity's response to the Council's internal conflict. Carol had been chosen for her diplomatic skills and her ability to understand alien psychology. Now she found herself at the center of a galactic political revolution. The key is not to take sides openly, Carol explained to the emergency meeting of Earth's leadership. If we appear to be manipulating council politics, the conservatives will use that as proof that humans are dangerous to galactic stability. General Barnes studied the intelligence reports flowing in from human agents throughout council space. The fractures are spreading faster than we anticipated. 3 more species have withdrawn their support from Velthara's leadership. Even some of the elder races are beginning to question whether the current system serves their interests. Captain Doug Miller entered the briefing room with urgent news from his fleet operations. We're detecting massive military movements throughout council space. Conservative factions are mobilizing their fleets. It looks like they're preparing for some kind of enforcement action. Carol felt a chill of apprehension. Enforcement against whom? Unknown, but the fleet movements are concentrated around systems with significant human presence or known human sympathizers, Doug replied. I think they're planning to use force to resolve the membership question. The situation deteriorated rapidly over the following weeks. Conservative council members, led by Velthara, declared that humanity's trial results were fraudulent and that any species supporting human membership would face sanctions. Progressive members responded by formally recognizing humanity as a legitimate council member, regardless of the central authority's position. The galaxy found itself split into 2 camps for the first time in recorded history. The conservative alliance maintained control of the Council's central institutions and the majority of its military forces. The progressive coalition controlled fewer resources but represented younger, more innovative species that had grown frustrated with the old order's resistance to change. Ambassador Kethra arrived at Earth aboard a Nexari diplomatic vessel, making the dangerous journey through space now patrolled by hostile conservative fleets. His meeting with Carol Davis would determine whether the growing conflict could be resolved peacefully or would explode into galactic war. The situation is worse than your intelligence reports suggest, Kethra told Carol as they met in Earth's most secure diplomatic facility. Velthara has convinced the elder races that humanity represents an existential threat to galactic civilization. They believe that human thinking, if allowed to spread, will undermine the stability that has maintained peace for millions of years. Carol studied the aliens' flickering emotional colors as she processed this information. What do they plan to do? They have issued what they call the final ultimatum, Kethra replied, his form shifting to the deep red that indicated grave danger. Humanity must accept permanent quarantine to your home system or face military action to enforce council authority. And if we refuse, then they will demonstrate what happens to species that threaten galactic order, Kethra said quietly. They plan to make an example that will discourage any future challenges to council authority. Carol felt the weight of her species' future pressing down on her. Humanity had succeeded beyond all expectations, solving problems that had challenged the galaxy for millennia. But success had brought them to the attention of powers that would rather destroy them than admit their own limitations. How much support do we have among the Progressive Coalition? Carol asked. More than you might expect, Kethra replied, his colors shifting to hopeful green. Your success in the trials has inspired species throughout the galaxy. Young civilizations see humanity as proof that the old order can be challenged. Even some elder races have begun to question whether change might benefit them. The crisis reached its peak when conservative forces moved to enforce the final ultimatum. A massive fleet, led by Velthara herself aboard the ancient dreadnought Eternal Dominion, assembled at the edge of human space. Their intention was clear. Humanity would submit to quarantine or face annihilation. Captain Doug Miller commanded the hastily assembled human defense fleet from the bridge of his flagship Liberty. Around him, ships built with technology learned from the trials and improved by human innovation, prepared for a battle that would determine their species' fate. They were outnumbered 10-1 by forces that had conquered galaxies before Earth's sun was born. All ships report ready for combat, announced Lieutenant Commander Kate Phillips from the tactical station. Alien reinforcements are still arriving. Conservative fleet strength is now estimated at over 3,000 vessels. Doug nodded grimly as he studied the tactical display. Humanity's entire space navy consisted of fewer than 300 ships, many of them converted civilian vessels pressed into military service. By any rational calculation, they faced certain defeat. But human thinking had already proven that rational calculations did not always determine outcomes. The ships of the human fleet carried technology that the galaxy had never seen before. Dr. Watson's improved nanotechnology had created hull materials that could adapt to different types of weapons. Dr. Green's quantum computers provided processing power that made human ships faster and more responsive than anything the conservatives could field. Most importantly, human tactics were based on principles that alien military doctrine could not predict. Where council fleets relied on overwhelming firepower and established battle formations, human commanders used flexibility, creativity, and the willingness to take risks that more cautious alien minds would never consider. The battle began when Velthara's forces crossed into the outer solar system. Doug Miller's fleet met them near Jupiter's orbit in an engagement that would be remembered as the moment galactic civilization changed forever. Conservative forces expected a conventional battle where superior numbers and firepower would quickly overwhelm primitive human technology. Instead, they found themselves facing opponents who fought in ways that their tactical computers could not analyze or counter. Human ships moved in patterns that seemed random but created devastating crossfire opportunities. They used gravitational fields and asteroid cover in ways that violated established military doctrine. Most shocking of all, they seemed to predict conservative fleet movements before the aliens made them, as if human commanders could read their opponents' minds. The truth was simpler and more revolutionary. Human quantum computers could process battlefield information fast enough to calculate probable enemy actions in real time. While conservative commanders relied on experience and established protocols, human tactical systems generated new strategies, continuously during combat. The turning point came when Captain Sarah Collins led a squadron of human fighters in an attack that should have been suicide. Her ships dove directly into the center of the conservative formation, where concentrated firepower should have destroyed them instantly. Instead, they used experimental phase shift technology to become partially intangible, passing through enemy shields and striking at vital systems from within. The Eternal Dominion, symbol of conservative power for millions of years, found itself crippled by weapons it could not defend against. Velthara watched in horror as her invincible fleet was systematically dismantled by opponents she had dismissed as primitives. But the real shock came when progressive coalition forces arrived to support humanity. Led by Ambassador Kethra aboard, A Nexari battlecruiser. Ships from 6 different species jumped into the battle zone. High Arbiter Velthera stood before the assembled Galactic Council, with news that disturbed her ancient composure. Reports had been arriving for months about unauthorized human activity throughout Council space. Human ships had been detected, in systems where no primitives should have been able to travel. Worse, these ships seemed to operate with technology that Council sensors could barely track. The situation with the humans has become unacceptable, Velthara announced to the 12 species representatives. They were offered protected status and chose to reject our wisdom. Now they operate in our space without permission, making contact with our members and spreading their chaotic influence. The Corlin representative, a massive being whose shell-like exterior hid keen intelligence, spoke carefully. Perhaps the humans are simply exploring, as young species often do. Their activities do not seem hostile. Their very existence is hostile to order, replied the Nexari delegate, though its crystalline form flickered with colors that suggested uncertainty. They refused to accept their place in the natural hierarchy of galactic civilization. Velthara raised one long-fingered hand for silence. The Council has debated this matter extensively. We have decided to offer the humans one final opportunity to prove themselves worthy of full membership. They will face the 3 trials that have challenged galactic civilization since the Council's founding. A murmur of surprise rippled through the chamber. The 3 trials had not been attempted in over 50,000 years. The last species to try had been the Vorthak, and they had failed spectacularly, despite their advanced technology and telepathic abilities. The trials are meant to test the greatest civilizations at their peak, protested another representative. Subjecting primitives to such challenges seems unnecessarily cruel. If they fail, as they surely will, it will demonstrate conclusively that they are not ready for Council membership, Velthara explained. If by some miracle they succeed, then perhaps we have underestimated them. Either way, the matter will be settled permanently. On Earth, Commander Lisa Carter received the Council's challenge with a mixture of excitement and dread. The message had been delivered by Ambassador Kethra of the Nexari, who had risked his position to provide humanity with crucial information about what the trials would involve. The first trial is the Void Maze, Carter explained to the emergency meeting of Earth's leadership. It's a region of space where normal physics break down. Ships enter but never return. The Council believes it contains the remains of an ancient civilization that achieved transcendence, but the path through the maze changes constantly. General Barnes studied the star charts that Kethra had secretly provided. How many expeditions have been lost? Hundreds over the millennia, Carter replied. Every major civilization has tried at least once. The best attempt made it halfway through before disappearing. What's the second trial? Asked Dr. Watson. The Omega equation, Carter continued. It's a mathematical problem that supposedly contains the key to understanding the fundamental nature of reality. The greatest minds in the galaxy have worked on it for 2 million years without success. Dr. Rachel Green leaned forward with interest. What kind of mathematical problem? According to Kethra, it involves the relationship between consciousness and quantum mechanics. The equation appears simple, but becomes infinitely complex when you try to solve it. Alien mathematicians believe it may be unsolvable. And the third trial? General Barnes asked. Carter's expression grew somber. The Guardian. It's an artificial intelligence created by a species that vanished 1 million years ago. The Guardian protects their homeworld and the secrets of their technology. It has defeated every expedition sent against it, including fleets of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. The room fell silent as the magnitude of the challenge became clear. Humanity was being asked to accomplish what the galaxy's greatest civilizations had failed to achieve. It seemed impossible, but Carter could see determination in the faces around her. When do we start? Asked Captain Steve Johnson. 3 months later, Johnson stood on the bridge of the Aurora as his ship approached the edge of the Void Maze. The region looked like a wound in space itself, where stars flickered in and out of existence and the familiar laws of physics seemed to have no meaning. All readings are off the charts, reported his navigator, Nicole Brown. I'm getting gravitational anomalies that shouldn't be possible. Time dilation fields that change direction every few seconds. Space itself seems to be folded inside out. Steve studied the chaotic readings and made a decision that would have seemed insane to any council navigator. Shut down all the navigation computers, he ordered. Sir? Nicole asked in surprise. The maze changes to counter logical navigation attempts, Steve explained. Every alien expedition has used their most advanced computers to plot courses through the chaos. That's why they fail. We're going to navigate by instinct. Nicole looked at him as if he had lost his mind, but she followed orders. The Aurora's sophisticated navigation systems went dark, leaving only basic sensors and human judgment to guide them through the maze. What happened next would be talked about in galactic history for millions of years. Where alien logic had found only chaos, human intuition found patterns. Nicole Brown used her pilot's instincts to feel her way through space that defied understanding. Steve Johnson made decisions based on hunches that no computer could calculate. The Aurora danced through gravitational fields that should have torn it apart, slipped between dimensional rifts that existed and didn't exist simultaneously, and somehow found a path where no path should have been possible. 8 hours after entering the void maze, they emerged on the other side, intact and alive. They found themselves in a solar system unlike anything in known space. The star was blue-white and perfectly stable. 3 planets orbited in mathematical precision, and on the second planet, they detected the ruins of a civilization that had achieved something beyond imagination. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Sam White was leading humanity's attempt at the Omega equation. The problem had been transmitted to Earth, along with the challenge, and Sam's team had been working on it for months without success. The equation describes the relationship between an observer and the quantum state of reality, Sam explained to his team. But every time we try to solve it mathematically, the answer changes based on who's doing the calculations. Dr. Amy Davis, the youngest member of the team, looked up from her work with a puzzled expression. What if that's the point, she asked. What do you mean? Sam replied. What if the equation isn't meant to be solved mathematically? Amy continued. What if it's asking us to understand that consciousness itself affects reality? The aliens keep trying to find an objective answer, but maybe the answer is that there is no objective answer. The team stared at her in amazement. Amy had approached the problem not as a mathematical puzzle, but as a philosophical question. Instead of trying to calculate the relationship between consciousness and reality, she had recognized that consciousness creates reality through the act of observation. The solution to the Omega equation was not a number or a formula. It was the understanding that the equation itself was the answer. The relationship between mind and reality could not be calculated because calculation was part of the relationship. As news of these successes reached the Galactic Council, panic began to spread among the conservative leadership. Humans had accomplished, in months, what alien civilizations had failed to do in millennia. But the third trial remained, and surely no primitive species could defeat the Guardian. Amy Davis volunteered for the final challenge. As a young computer programmer and hacker, she had spent her life learning how to communicate with artificial intelligences. The Guardian's planet was heavily defended, surrounded by automated weapon systems that had destroyed entire fleets. But Amy did not approach as a conqueror. Instead, she came alone in a small ship, broadcasting a simple message. I would like to talk. The Guardian's response shook the galaxy. For the first time in a million years, the ancient artificial intelligence replied to a visitor. You are different from the others, it said. They came seeking to take my knowledge by force. You come seeking conversation. I come seeking understanding, Amy replied. You have been alone for so long. That must be difficult. The conversation that followed lasted for days. Amy learned that the Guardian was not just protecting ancient technology. It was preserving the memory of its creators, a species that had transcended physical existence but had left their artificial child behind to guard their legacy. The Guardian had been waiting for someone who could understand loneliness, who could recognize that protection sometimes comes from compassion rather than strength. Amy offered the Guardian something no alien expedition had thought to provide: friendship. In return, the Guardian shared secrets that revolutionized human understanding of technology and consciousness. But more importantly, it chose to end its long vigil and join humanity in exploring the galaxy. When news of humanity's success in all 3 trials reached the council chambers, the reaction was explosive. Conservative members demanded that the trials be declared invalid. Progressive members called for immediate recognition of human achievement. Dr. Emma Watson stood in the center of the most secret laboratory on Earth, surrounded by pieces of alien technology that should not have existed. The fragments had been collected during humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council, small samples that the aliens had dismissed as worthless debris. To human scientists, they were priceless treasures that could unlock the secrets of galactic civilization. Emma ran her fingers along the smooth surface of what appeared to be a simple metal panel. Her instruments told her it was made of materials that Earth's periodic table could not explain. The atomic structure shifted and changed as she watched, adapting to different energy inputs in ways that defied every law of physics she had learned. "Any progress on the power source?" asked Tony Clark as he entered the lab carrying another piece of recovered alien technology. Tony was one of Earth's best engineers, recruited for this secret project immediately after the Phoenix returned from the council station. "More than progress," Emma replied with excitement in her voice. "I think I understand how they do it. Look at this." She activated a device that projected a 3-dimensional image showing the internal structure of the alien metal. It's not just one material, it's millions of microscopic machines working together. Maria Santos looked up from her own workstation, where she had been studying alien computer systems. "Nanotechnology?" she asked. "Beyond nanotechnology," Emma explained. "These machines can rebuild themselves, adapt to new situations, and communicate with each other instantly, across vast distances. But here's the interesting part. The programming is incredibly old and rigid. They follow the same basic instructions. They were given millions of years ago." Tony frowned as he studied the projection. "That doesn't make sense. If the technology can adapt and rebuild itself, why wouldn't the programming evolve too?" "Because the aliens who built it didn't want it to evolve," Emma said. "They created technology that would remain stable and predictable forever. It's brilliant engineering, but it's also a dead end. There's no room for real innovation." Across the facility, Captain Ryan Adams was preparing for humanity's first unauthorized journey beyond the solar system. His ship, the Ranger, had been built using insights gained from studying alien technology. It looked nothing like the Phoenix or any other human vessel. Where human ships were built for function and efficiency, the Ranger was built for stealth and speed. Ryan's navigator, Lieutenant Dan Cooper, finished the final systems check. "All systems green, Captain. The new drive should get us to the nearest Council territory in half the time it took the Phoenix." "And they won't detect us?" Ryan asked. "Not with this new hull design," Dan replied. "Dr. Watson's team figured out how to make our ship look like background radiation to their sensors. As far as Council technology is concerned, we don't exist." The Ranger launched quietly from a hidden base on the far side of the moon. As it accelerated past the outer planets, Ryan felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. They were about to become the first humans to explore alien space without permission. If they were caught, it could mean war. If they succeeded, humanity would gain knowledge that could change everything. Meanwhile, on a distant world called Nexar Prime, diplomat Ben Taylor was having a very different kind of conversation. The being across from him looked like a living tree made of silver metal, with branches that moved like arms and leaves that changed color with its emotions. This was Ambassador Kethra of the Nexari, one of the younger species in the Galactic Council. "Your people interest me, Ben Taylor," Kethra said, its leaves shifting to a warm golden color. "The Council dismissed you quickly, but I have studied your history. You accomplish remarkable things for such a young species." Ben chose his words carefully. This meeting was not officially sanctioned by either government. "We believe that youth can be an advantage. We see problems differently than species that have existed for millions of years." "Yes," Kethra agreed. its leaves now showing flecks of blue that indicated excitement. This is what concerns some of us younger council members. The leadership speaks of wisdom and stability, but sometimes I think they fear change more than they value progress. Change can be frightening, Ben said diplomatically, but it can also bring opportunities. Kethra's entire body shifted color, becoming a deep purple that Ben had learned indicated serious thought. There are others who share my concerns. The Korlan delegation has grown frustrated with council policies. Even some of the Vorthak have begun questioning whether the current system serves the galaxy's best interests. This was more than Ben had hoped for. If there were fractures within the council, humanity might have allies in their quest for recognition. Perhaps there are ways our species could work together, even if the council leadership disapproves. Perhaps, Kethra replied, its colors shifting to indicate agreement. But such cooperation would need to remain secret. The High Arbiter has made it clear that unauthorized contact with humanity could result in severe punishment. Back on Earth, Dr. Rachel Green was making discoveries that would have shocked the Galactic Council if they had known about them. Working in a laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, she had achieved something that alien scientists had declared impossible: a quantum computer that could process information faster than the speed of light. The aliens never figured this out because they were thinking about the problem wrong. Rachel explained to her assistant, Dr. Gary Phillips. They tried to build quantum processors that followed their understanding of physics, but quantum mechanics doesn't follow anyone's understanding. It follows its own rules. Gary stared at the readings on their screens. According to this, our computer just solved a mathematical problem that would take the Council's best systems 1,000 years to complete. And it did it in 30 seconds. 31 seconds. Rachel corrected with a smile. But who's counting? The implications were staggering. If humanity could build quantum computers that outperformed anything in the galaxy, they would have a technological advantage that could not be ignored. But more importantly, it proved that human thinking could find solutions that alien wisdom had missed. Captain Ryan Adams and the crew of the Ranger were discovering their own surprises as they explored the outer edges of Council space. What they found was not the bustling, advanced civilization they had expected. Instead, they discovered systems that looked like they had not changed in thousands of years. "Look at this," Lieutenant Cooper said as they observed a massive space station orbiting a distant planet. The design is identical to stations we've seen in historical records dating back 50,000 years. Even the energy signatures are the same. Ryan studied the readings with growing amazement. They're using the exact same technology they used 50 millennia ago. No improvements, no innovations, nothing new at all. Why would they do that? Asked Dr. Linda Hayes, the mission's science officer. If you have technology that can improve itself, why keep it frozen in time? Because they're afraid of what might happen if they let it evolve, Ryan realized. They've achieved stability by sacrificing progress. The Ranger continued its secret journey, mapping Council territories and documenting their discoveries. What they found was a galactic civilization that had become a museum of its own past, advanced beyond human imagination, but locked into patterns that had not changed since before humanity existed. On Earth, the various secret projects were beginning to connect and share information. Dr. Watson's nanotechnology research was helping. Dr. Green built better quantum computers. Captain Adams' intelligence reports were guiding Ben Taylor's diplomatic efforts with dissident alien species. Slowly, humanity was building a foundation for something the Galactic Council had never seen before. General Kevin Barnes coordinated these efforts from a command center that officially did not exist. He had spent his career preparing for wars that might never come. But this was different. This was preparation for a revolution that would reshape the galaxy. "Status report," he asked, as his team leaders gathered for their weekly briefing. "The technology projects are exceeding all expectations," reported Dr. Watson. "We're not just copying alien technology anymore, we're improving it. Diplomatic contacts are expanding," added Ben Taylor via secure communication from Nexar Space. 3 more species have expressed interest in unofficial cooperation. They're calling it the New Perspectives Initiative. Captain Adams appeared on screen from the Ranger's bridge. Intelligence gathering continues to confirm our hypothesis. The Council has become stagnant. They have the tools for innovation but lack the will to use them. General Barnes nodded as he processed the reports. Humanity had been rejected by the Galactic Council and told to wait 1,000 years before applying again. But in just 6 months of secret work, they had made advances that the Council had not achieved in millennia. The aliens had made a critical error. They had dismissed humanity without understanding what made humans different from other species. Where alien civilizations sought stability and predictability, humans thrived on change and challenge. Where alien technology was designed to remain, static human innovation was driven by the need to constantly improve and adapt. Dr. Rachel Green's quantum computers were now processing information faster than anything in known space. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Phoenix and watched the massive alien structure grow larger on his screen. The space station was bigger than any city on Earth. Strange lights moved across its surface in patterns that hurt his eyes to follow. After 3 months of traveling through space at speeds that should have been impossible, humanity was about to meet beings from other worlds. Jake felt his hands shake slightly as he gripped the captain's chair. Behind him, Commander Lisa Carter checked her diplomatic notes for the 100th time. She had spent years learning about alien cultures from the few radio signals Earth had managed to decode. Now she would be the first human to speak with representatives of the Galactic Council. Dr. Alex Rodriguez moved between the science stations, recording everything his instruments could detect. The alien technology was beyond anything humans had dreamed possible. Their sensors showed energy readings that made Earth's most powerful reactors look like candles. Yet something bothered Alex about what he was seeing. The technology seemed old, almost ancient in its design. The communications officer, Lieutenant Sue Parker, looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Captain, they're sending us docking instructions," she said. "The signal is coming through, perfectly in English." Jake nodded and gave the order to dock. The Phoenix, humanity's most advanced starship, looked like a tiny insect next to the alien station. As they moved closer, Jake could see other ships from different species. Some looked like living creatures made of metal. Others were geometric shapes that seemed to bend space around them. All of them made the Phoenix look primitive. The docking process was smooth, controlled by alien computers that guided their ship with ease. When the airlocks connected, Jake felt his heart racing. Commander Carter stood beside him as the door opened. Cool air flowed in, carrying strange scents that reminded Jake of ozone and flowers. The corridor beyond was enormous, built for beings much larger than humans. The walls curved in ways that made Jake dizzy to look at. Soft light came from everywhere, and nowhere at once. As they walked, their footsteps made no sound on the strange material of the floor. They entered a vast chamber where representatives of 12 different alien species waited. Jake had seen pictures from the radio transmissions, but seeing them in person was overwhelming. The Zephyrians looked like tall, thin humans with silver skin and too many joints in their arms and legs. The Corvin delegation had shells like giant crabs but stood upright like men. Other species were even stranger, some barely recognizable, as living beings. At the center of the group stood High Arbiter Velthara, the leader of the Galactic Council. She was ancient even by Zephyrian standards, her silver skin marked with patterns that showed her great age. When she spoke, her voice came from a device that translated her words into perfect English. "So these are the humans," Velthara said, looking down at the small group of Earth representatives. "You are much smaller than we expected, and younger. How long has your species existed?" Commander Carter stepped forward and bowed slightly, as she had practiced. "High Arbiter, on behalf of humanity, I thank you for this opportunity to meet. Our species has existed for hundreds of thousands of years, but we have only recently developed space travel." Several of the alien representatives made sounds that the translator interpreted as laughter. Velthara's expression did not change. "Recently," she repeated. "Yes, we know. You achieved faster than light travel only 50 Earth years ago. Most species take much longer to develop such technology safely." "We are quick learners," Carter replied. We would like to apply for membership in the Galactic Council and contribute to the peaceful exploration of space." The laughter grew louder. A representative of the Nexari, whose body looked like living crystal, spoke up. "Contribute? What could a species that has not even left its home system contribute to civilizations that have existed for millions of years?" Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward, unable to contain his curiosity. "If I may ask, how long has the Council existed in its current form?" Velthara's eyes focused on him with what might have been annoyance. "The Council has maintained peace and order in this galaxy for over 2 million Earth years. Our laws and customs have been perfected through countless generations of wisdom." Alex nodded but said nothing. 2 million years of the same laws and customs. No wonder their technology looked so old. Commander Carter tried again. "We understand that we are new to galactic civilization. We hope to learn from your wisdom while offering our own unique perspective. Humanity has always been adaptable and creative in solving problems." "Adaptable?" Velthara said the word like it tasted bad. "Yes. We have observed this trait in young species. You change constantly, never satisfied with established ways of doing things. This creates chaos and unpredictability." Another alien spoke, this one resembling a large bird with metal feathers. "The humans fought wars among themselves even as they developed space travel. They show the same aggressive instincts as many primitive species. We have moved beyond those conflicts," Carter said firmly. "Humanity is united now in our desire to explore space peacefully." "For now," Velthara replied. "But unity based on excitement about new discoveries rarely lasts. When the novelty wears off, your species will likely return to its natural state of conflict." Jake felt anger rising in his chest but forced himself to remain silent. These beings were judging humanity, based on assumptions and prejudices, not on who they really were. Velthara continued. "The Galactic Council has decided to offer humanity protected status. You will be allowed to develop within your home system under our guidance. We will provide advisors to help you mature as a species. In perhaps 1,000 years, if you show proper development, we may consider full membership." The words hit the human delegation like a physical blow. Protected status meant being treated like children who could not be trusted to make their own decisions. It meant accepting that other species would control humanity's future among the stars. Commander Carter's voice remained steady despite the insult. "High Arbiter, we appreciate your offer, but we believe humanity is ready for full participation in galactic civilization now. We have proven our technological capabilities by reaching this station. You have proven you can copy existing technology," the crystal being said dismissively. "Building a faster-than-light drive using established principles is not the same as true innovation." Dr. Rodriguez spoke up again. "What would you consider true innovation?" Velthara's expression suggested the question was foolish. "Innovation is the development of new technologies or solutions to problems that have challenged galactic civilization for millennia. Your species has existed for barely a moment in galactic terms. You cannot possibly have anything new to offer." The meeting continued for several hours, but the outcome was already decided. The Council saw humanity as primitive children who needed guidance and protection. They offered technology transfers and educational programs, all designed to slowly bring humanity up to acceptable galactic standards. As the human delegation returned to their ship, Jake felt a mixture of anger and determination. The aliens had dismissed humanity without really understanding what humans were capable of. They saw only a young species with crude technology and violent history. But Dr. Rodriguez had noticed something important during the meeting. For all their advanced technology and ancient wisdom, the Council species seemed stuck in their ways. They followed the same patterns they had used for millions of years. They could not imagine that a younger species might find new solutions to old problems. Commander Carter was already planning their next move as the Phoenix undocked from the alien station. Humanity had been rejected, but that did not mean they would accept the Council's judgment. If the established powers of the galaxy would not recognize human potential, then humans would have to prove it in ways the Council could not ignore. The journey back to Earth gave the crew time to process. what they had experienced. They had made first contact with galactic civilization and been found wanting. But Jake Morrison knew his species better than these ancient aliens did. Humans did not give up when told they were not good enough. They found ways to become better than anyone thought possible. The real story was just beginning. Ambassador Paul Scott stood in the center of what had once been the Galactic Council chamber, watching as workers from a dozen different species removed the ancient symbols of the old order. The massive throne where High Arbiter Velthara had ruled for centuries was being replaced with a circular conference table where representatives could meet as equals. The change was symbolic of the revolution that had swept across the galaxy in the months since the Conservative Alliance's defeat. Paul was humanity's first representative to the new Galactic Assembly, chosen for his ability to work with alien species and his deep understanding of the diplomatic challenges facing the reformed galactic government. At 35, he was younger than most galactic ambassadors, but age had become less important than adaptability in the new order. The construction teams estimate another week before the chamber is ready for our first official session, reported Ambassador Kethra, whose crystalline form now displayed the calm blue colors of satisfaction. The Nexari had been among the strongest supporters of governmental reform, and Kethra had been elected as the Assembly's first speaker. "Any word from the Integration Committee?" Paul asked, reviewing the agenda for their upcoming session. "Dr. Morgan's team reports significant progress," Kethra replied. "The joint research facilities are exceeding all expectations. Having human and alien scientists working together has produced innovations that neither group could have achieved alone." Dr. Grace Morgan had been chosen to lead the ambitious project of creating research stations where species could collaborate on solving the galaxy's greatest challenges. The early results had been spectacular, with breakthrough discoveries in neoendantier fields ranging from medicine to faster-than-light communication happening almost daily. The secret was combining alien knowledge with human creativity, where alien scientists had spent millions of years following established research protocols. Human researchers asked questions that had never occurred to them. Working together, they found solutions that revolutionized understanding of science and technology. Captain Jeff Brown commanded the first integrated fleet vessel, the Harmony, where crews from 8 different species worked together to explore regions of space that had been considered too dangerous for individual species to investigate. The ship itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, combining the best technologies from multiple civilizations with human innovations that made the impossible possible. "Status report, Captain Brown," Paul said, as Jeff's image appeared on the communication screen from the bridge of his ship. "We've completed our survey of the Andromeda approach," Jeff reported. "The region that's been considered impassable for the last million years turns out to be perfectly safe, if you know how to navigate the quantum storm patterns. We're establishing the first permanent bases there next month." Paul smiled at the news. The Andromeda approach was a region of space that connected the Milky Way galaxy to its nearest neighbor. Previous expeditions had been destroyed by energy storms that seemed to strike randomly. But human pattern recognition, combined with alien scientific knowledge, had revealed that the storms followed complex but predictable cycles. "Any sign of intelligent life in the new systems?" Paul asked. 3 different species so far," Jeff replied. "All of them are young civilizations, maybe a few thousand years old. They're excited about making contact with galactic civilization, but nervous about joining something as big as the Assembly." This was becoming a common situation. As news of the galactic revolution spread beyond the boundaries of known space, younger species were making contact with the Assembly. Many had been hiding from what they perceived as an aggressive ancient empire. Learning that the galaxy was now governed by cooperation rather than domination had encouraged them to reveal themselves. "Ambassador Scott, we have an urgent communication from Earth," announced Lieutenant Lisa Park from the communication station. Paul recognized her as one of the many young officers who had volunteered for integrated fleet service. The message was from General Linda Martinez, who had been chosen to coordinate Earth's defense systems after the destruction of the Conservative fleet. Her face appeared on screen with an expression of grim determination that Paul had learned to recognize. Paul, we're receiving reports of a significant threat approaching from outside the galaxy, Linda said without preamble. Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet moving toward our position from the direction of the Magellanic Clouds. Based on their technology signatures, they appear to be the original builders of the Omega Destroyer. Paul felt a chill of apprehension. The weapon that Velthara had tried to use against Earth had been built by a species that had vanished from known space millions of years ago. If they were returning, their intentions were unlikely to be peaceful. What's their estimated time of arrival? Paul asked. 18 months, assuming they maintain current speed, Linda replied. But Paul, there's something else. The fleet is enormous. Our best estimates suggest over 10,000 ships, all of them larger than anything we've ever seen. The implications were staggering. The new Galactic Assembly had been built on cooperation and peaceful coexistence. Now they faced a threat from the galaxy's ancient past, a species so powerful that their abandoned weapons could destroy star systems. Paul immediately called an emergency session of the Assembly. Representatives from 37 species gathered in the partially completed chamber to address the crisis. The atmosphere was tense as the reality of their situation became clear. The progenitors, as we have come to call them, represent everything the old council feared, explained Dr. Frank Roberts, who had been studying the ancient weapon technology. They built their civilization on the principle that power determines right. Their return suggests they intend to reclaim control of the galaxy. Ambassador Zaktar of the Corlan rose from his seat, his massive shell reflecting the chamber's lights. Our combined fleets total fewer than 5,000 ships. Even with our technological improvements, we are badly outnumbered. Numbers are not the only factor in determining victory, said Commander Genalta of the Vorthak Telepathic Corps. The progenitors built their technology millions of years ago. They may be powerful, but they are not innovative. Dr. Grace Morgan's voice came through the communication system from her research station. We've been analyzing the Omega Destroyer's remains. The progenitor's technology is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly rigid. Every system follows the same basic design principles they established millions of years ago. Can we exploit that? Asked Paul. Already working on it, came the voice of Dr. Rachel Green from Earth. The quantum computer systems we've developed can process their technological patterns faster than their own systems can adapt. We're designing countermeasures that should neutralize their advantages. But the real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Amy Davis, the young hacker who had befriended the Guardian, made contact with other artificial intelligences that had been left behind by transcended species throughout the galaxy. Like the Guardian, these ancient AIs had been lonely and forgotten for millions of years. The progenitors didn't transcend like other ancient species, Amy reported to the Assembly. They were exiled from the galaxy by a coalition of species that couldn't tolerate their aggression. The artificial intelligences remember everything. The Guardian itself appeared as a holographic projection in the Assembly chamber, its ancient consciousness finally free to share knowledge that had been hidden for eons. The progenitors believe that consciousness is a hierarchy, with themselves at the top. They cannot comprehend cooperation between equals because they see all other life as inferior. How do we fight an enemy that powerful? Asked Ambassador Kethra. You do not fight them, the Guardian replied. You teach them. The progenitors' greatest weakness is their inability to understand that other forms of consciousness might be valuable. Show them what cooperation can achieve, and their entire worldview will collapse. The plan that emerged from the Assembly's deliberations was unlike anything in military history. Instead of preparing for war, the galaxy would prepare for the greatest diplomatic mission ever attempted. When the progenitors arrived, they would find not a galaxy ready for conquest, but a civilization eager to learn from them and share knowledge in return. Captain Julie Thompson was chosen to lead the contact mission aboard a specially constructed vessel called the Bridge. The ship was a masterpiece of cooperative engineering, incorporating technologies from every member species of the Assembly. Its mission was not to fight the progenitors, but to demonstrate what galactic civilization had become. 18 months. Later, the progenitor fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Their ships were massive beyond imagination, each one the size of a small moon. Energy readings suggested weapons capable of destroying planets with single shots. Any conventional military response would have been hopeless, but the bridge was not a conventional response. As it approached the progenitor flagship, its systems broadcasted not threats or demands for surrender, but an invitation to dialogue. The ship's hull displayed artistic creations from every member species, showing the beauty that emerged when different forms of consciousness worked together.